Hello, my little love. Did you have a good day today? I hope something made you smile. Now take a slow breath, relax your shoulders, and let your mind get soft and quiet. It's time for a gentle bedtime story. Long ago, when the world was filled with more magic than it is now, there lived a young man named Hercules. He was different from other people in a special way. He was incredibly strong. Not just strong like someone who could lift heavy stones or carry big baskets of fruit, but strong in a way that seemed almost like magic. He could move boulders that 10 men together couldn't budge. He could carry whole trees on his shoulders. His strength was a gift, something extraordinary that made him unique. But Hercules had a problem, and it wasn't the kind of problem you might expect. His problem was that he didn't always know how to use his strength in the right way. When he was excited, he might hug someone a little too tightly. When he wanted to help by moving something, he might accidentally break it because he didn't realize his own power. Sometimes the other children were nervous to play with him because they worried he might not know his own strength. This made Hercules feel sad and lonely. He had a good heart, warm and kind, and he wanted more than anything to use his special gift to help people and make the world a better place. But he was young, and he was still learning, and sometimes learning takes time and patience. One day, Hercules sat by himself near a quiet stream that ran through an olive grove. The water made soft gurgling sounds as it flowed over smooth pebbles, and the olive trees rustled gently in the warm breeze. Their silver-green leaves caught the sunlight and made it dance in beautiful patterns on the ground. Hercules picked up a small stone and held it carefully between his thumb and finger, trying to be as gentle as possible. He wanted to learn how to control his strength, to understand it better, to make it something truly helpful, rather than something that sometimes caused problems. As he sat there thinking, a wise woman appeared on the path. Her name was Athena, and she was known throughout the land for her wisdom and kindness. She wore robes the color of the sky just after sunset, soft blues and purples that seemed to shimmer when she moved. Her eyes were gentle and understanding, and when she smiled at Hercules, he felt somehow that she understood exactly what he was feeling. "Hello, Hercules," she said in a voice as calm as still water. "I've been watching you, and I can see that you're troubled. Would you like to tell me what's weighing on your heart?" Hercules looked up at her, and even though he was big and strong, his eyes held the uncertainty of someone who was still learning about himself. "I have this strength," he said quietly, "and I don't know what to do with it. I want to help people, but sometimes I make mistakes. Sometimes I'm too strong when I should be gentle. I wish I knew how to use this gift the right way." Athena sat down beside him on the soft grass, moving with the grace of someone who had lived for many, many years and learned many, many things. "Strength is a wonderful gift," she said thoughtfully, "but like all gifts, it needs to be understood and guided by wisdom. True strength isn't just about how much you can lift or how hard you can work. The strongest people are those who know when to use their power and when to be gentle, when to act and when to be patient, when to help and how to help in just the right way." Hercules listened carefully, the way you listen when someone is telling you something important that you know you need to remember. "But how'd I learn that?" he asked. "How'd I become truly strong in the way you mean?" Athena smiled. By taking on challenges that teach you about yourself and about the world. Not challenges that are about fighting or defeating others, but challenges that help you grow wiser and kinder. I know of 12 tasks that would be perfect for you, 12 opportunities to learn how to use your strength with wisdom, gentleness, and love. Would you like to try them? Hercules felt a little flutter of nervousness in his chest, but also a warm glow of hope. Yes, he said, I would like that very much. And so Hercules began his journey of learning, and each task that Athena set before him taught him something new and precious about what it means to be truly strong. The first task took him to a beautiful garden that belonged to a kind old gardener who could no longer tend it properly. The garden had once been magnificent, but now it was overgrown and tangled. Enormous weeds had grown up between the flowers, and thorny brambles blocked the pathways where people used to walk and enjoy the peaceful beauty. The old gardener showed Hercules the garden with tears in his eyes. I used to keep this place so lovely, he said softly, but my hands are weak now, and I can't clear away all these overgrown plants. I miss seeing the flowers bloom and watching the butterflies dance among them. Hercules looked at the tangled garden and understood what he needed to do. But he also remembered what Athena had said about using his strength wisely. He couldn't just tear everything out roughly, he needed to be careful. So he worked slowly and thoughtfully, using his great strength to pull up the giant weeds by their roots. But moving carefully around the delicate flowers that still bloomed beneath the tangles. He cleared the thorny brambles, making sure not to damage the stone pathways or the small fountain that bubbled quietly in the center of the garden. It took him 3 whole days, working from sunrise to sunset, and by the time he was finished, the garden looked like a painting come to life. The flowers lifted their colorful heads to the sun, the pathways were clear and welcoming, and the old gardener wept with joy. Thank you, the gardener said, taking Hercules' large hand in his small, wrinkled ones. You didn't just use your strength, you used your heart too. That's what made the difference. Hercules felt something warm bloom inside his chest, like a flower opening to the light. He was beginning to understand. The second task took him to a forest where a magnificent old tree had fallen across the river during a storm. The tree was enormous, wider than 3 men standing side by side, and it blocked the water's flow completely. The river had begun to overflow its banks, flooding the homes of the animals who lived nearby. Rabbits, deer, birds, and foxes all watched anxiously as the water rose higher and higher. They had asked everyone they could think of for help, but no one was strong enough to move such a massive tree. When Hercules arrived and saw the situation, he took a deep breath and thought carefully. He couldn't just push the tree roughly. If he did, he might send it crashing down on the animals' homes on the other side of the river. Or he might stir up the water so much that it would flood even more. Instead, he waded into the cool river water, feeling the current pushing against his legs, and positioned himself carefully. Then, using all his strength but controlling it perfectly, he lifted the tree slowly, holding it steady as he turned it lengthwise with the current. Gently, he guided it downstream to a place where it could rest on the bank without blocking the water or harming anyone. The river immediately began to flow freely again, the water level dropped, and all the animals cheered with relief and gratitude. A wise old owl flew down and perched on Hercules' shoulder. "You could have moved that tree quickly and carelessly," the owl hooted softly. "But instead you took your time and thought about all the lives that depended on you doing it right. That is wisdom, young Hercules. That is true strength." As the weeks and months passed, Hercules completed task after task, and with each one, he learned something new. He helped a village by redirecting a stream that had dried up, bringing fresh water back to their wells, and he learned about patience, because he had to move thousands of stones, one by one, to build a new channel without disturbing the homes of the fish and turtles who lived in the stream. He cleaned out enormous stables that had not been tended for years, making them fresh and sweet-smelling again for the gentle horses who lived there, and he learned about humility, because even someone as strong as he was still needed to do simple, humble work with care and attention. He captured a magnificent golden deer who had been frightened and running wild through the countryside, not to harm it, but to calm it and help it find its way back to the sacred grove, where it belonged, and he learned about gentleness and persistence, because it took him a whole year of following the deer patiently, speaking to it softly, earning its trust bit by bit until finally it let him come close enough to guide it home safely. He never once tried to grab it roughly or frighten it more. Instead, he waited with a patience as deep as the sea, and in the end, the deer walked beside him like a friend. There was a time when he journeyed to a valley where enormous birds had nested in the cliffs, and their presence frightened the people who lived below. But Hercules discovered that the birds weren't trying to be scary at all, they were just confused and didn't know where else to go. So instead of driving them away harshly, he found them a better home in a distant mountain where they could live peacefully without disturbing anyone. And he gently encouraged them to fly there by leaving trails of food and making the new place welcoming. The birds followed him gratefully, and the people in the valley thanked him for solving their problem with kindness rather than force. Each challenge taught Hercules something precious. He learned that strength without wisdom can cause harm, but strength guided by love and understanding can heal and help. He learned that sometimes the hardest thing to do is to hold back, to be gentle when you could be forceful, to wait when you could rush ahead. He learned that true strength means protecting the weak, being patient with those who are afraid, and using your gifts in service of others, rather than to show off or prove yourself. One of his most important lessons came when he visited an island, where a gentle three-headed dog guarded a garden of the most beautiful golden apples in the world. The dog's name was Cerberus, and people said he was fearsome and impossible to get past. But when Hercules approached the garden, he didn't see a monster. He saw a lonely creature who had been guarding the same place for so long that he had forgotten what it was like to have a friend. Hercules sat down at a safe distance and began talking to Cerberus in a calm, friendly voice. He told the dog about his journey, about all the things he was learning, about the beautiful places he had seen. At first, Cerberus just watched him suspiciously with all six of his eyes. But gradually, day by day, the great dog began to relax. Hercules brought him food and water, scratched behind his ears gently when Cerberus allowed it, and treated him with respect and kindness. After many days, Cerberus trusted Hercules enough to let him enter the garden peacefully. Hercules took just 3 golden apples, exactly as many as Athena had asked for, and he thanked Cerberus warmly for his trust. Before he left, he spent one more afternoon with the dog, making sure he wasn't lonely, and promising to visit again someday. When Hercules returned to Athena with the golden apples, she smiled at him with pride and warmth. "These apples are beautiful," she said, "but what you brought back that's truly valuable is what you learned. You befriended someone everyone else feared. You saw past appearances to the good heart underneath. That is a kind of strength that no one can measure, but everyone can feel." Finally, after all 12 tasks were complete, Hercules stood once more by the quiet stream where his journey had begun. The olive trees still rustled in the breeze, and the water still sang its gentle song over the stones. But Hercules himself had changed. He was no longer the uncertain young man who didn't know how to use his gift. He had become someone who understood that true strength is always gentle, always wise, always guided by love. Athena came to him one last time, her robes shimmering in the golden afternoon light. "You have learned well," she said softly. "You came to me with great strength in your muscles, but you were missing the strength that lives in the heart. Now you have both, and that makes you truly extraordinary, not because of what you can lift or move, but because of who you have become." Hercules smiled, and it was a smile full of peace and quiet confidence. "Thank you for teaching me," he said. "Thank you for showing me that strength is about so much more than power. It's about kindness and patience and wisdom and love. Those lessons were always inside you," Athena replied. "I just helped you find them." From that day forward, Hercules traveled throughout the land, and wherever he went, he used his strength to help others. He built homes for families who needed shelter, moving the heavy stones and timbers with ease but placing them with the care of someone creating a work of art. He helped farmers by clearing their fields and digging wells, but always thoughtfully, always making sure he understood what was needed before he began. He rescued people and animals who were in trouble, but he did it with such gentleness that they never felt frightened, only safe and cared for. Children loved him because he would lift them up high on his shoulders so they could see far across the valleys and mountains. But he always held them securely and carefully. Old people trusted him because he treated them with respect and moved slowly enough that they never felt rushed. Animals came to him without fear because they could sense his gentle heart. And at night, when his work was done, Hercules would often sit under the stars and think about all he had learned. He would remember the garden he had restored, the river he had freed, the deer he had guided home, the dog he had befriended, and all the other tasks that had taught him what it truly meant to be strong. He understood now that real strength wasn't about showing off or proving yourself to others. It was about knowing yourself, understanding your gifts, and using them wisely. And lovingly to make the world a little bit better, a little bit kinder, a little bit more beautiful. The stars above him would shine like tiny lanterns of hope, and the moon would cast its silver light across the peaceful land. A soft breeze would rustle through the trees, carrying the scent of night-blooming flowers and the distant sound of the sea. And Hercules would feel grateful for every challenge he had faced, because each one had helped him become not just stronger, but better, not just more powerful, but more wise, more kind, more gentle, and more loving. And so Hercules lived his life as a helper and a friend to all, using his remarkable strength, always in service of goodness and always with the gentle wisdom he had worked so hard to learn. He became a legend not because he was the strongest person who ever lived, but because he was strong in all the ways that truly matter: strong in kindness, strong in patience, strong in love, and strong in the gentle wisdom that knows when to act and when to wait, when to use power and when to simply be present with a caring heart. The world was better because he was in it, and that was the greatest strength of all. You did well today, my little love. Now let your eyes grow heavy, and let the night wrap around you like a soft blanket. Sleep well, sweet dreams, and rest deeply.